The supernova shook the planet, triggering a global ice age. As a supermarket warehouse manager, I managed to survive 2 years. However, a tragic event turned my world upside down. The person I had feelings for 18 years betrayed me. She broke into my house with neighbors and looted all my food. In a moment of despair, I would rather have died. However, when I opened my eyes again, I was reborn 3 months before the freezing cataclysm. In this new chance, I swore never to be submissive again. I want to repay the pain I suffered. But immediate priority: stock up on supplies before the apocalypse and build a safe fortress. As I consider where to start, a bright light flashes before me. The next moment, I find myself in an unfamiliar place. I look into extraterrestrial space, and an audacious idea takes shape. If I could bring an entire Walmart here, I would never have to worry about food or drink for a lifetime. My stomach growls thinking about all the delicacies I won't be able to taste after the end of time. I decide to go to the best restaurant in town. A meal costs 50,000, and in the apocalypse, even a simple bowl of instant noodles can be worth a life. Satisfaction will be a difficult achievement. The person I fell in love with 18 years ago witnesses this scene alongside his girlfriend. Surprisingly, she says, "You're lucky. The sycophant who is chasing you is actually a second-generation rich man in disguise." The girlfriend adds, "In my previous life, I was deceived by her, who pretended to be pure and innocent. In the end, I became your victim. Although now I want revenge, it would land me in prison. I will have to wait until the end of time." Without hesitation, I offer my card to them to shop at the supermarket. I plan to use them for free help, and as predicted, they accept it. "Of course, we're neighbors, we can help," they say. Who would have thought I would buy 2 wagons full of provisions for them? The girlfriend is dissatisfied. "Are you, being an adult, not going to do anything?" Hearing this reminds them of the favor I did. After all, they will treat me well. When extreme cold comes, none of you will escape. At that moment, a beautiful lady from the neighborhood approaches with her grandson Joazinho. "You can't consume all of this alone. How about sharing some with your aunt?" After ordering, her 2-year-old grandson starts taking things out of my cart. I quickly retreat, explaining, "Sorry, I barely have enough for myself." The child starts to make noise. "Give it back, or I'll kill you," he shouts. I respond coldly, "If you repeat this, believe me, there will be consequences." The scream makes the child cry. Auntly intervenes. An adult fighting with a child? I buy the box for her, transferring the money later. However, this makes her furious. As soon as they leave, I store all the food purchased in the alternative space and begin building an impenetrable fortress, stocked with heating devices and medical supplies. Weapons would be useful, but not urgent. There are still 90 days until the Ice Age. During this period, I need to sell my property quickly. With money, I will always get everything I need. In the morning, I check the freshness of the food in the alternative space. Although we cannot store living things, food remains fresh. I call the best local restaurant, reserving 500 tables for 3 days. The manager told me it will cost at least 1 million and requires a deposit of 200,000. I transferred without hesitation. I then mortgaged my property to the bank. After the apocalypse, money will be worthless, but this and my savings will be enough to build my fortress. I need more weapons and supplies. As I think about how to get money, a well-dressed man approaches. "You need money. I have a purpose for you." Unexpectedly, financial luck knocked on my door when I needed it most. A well-dressed man hurried me to another person, eager to know how much I needed to borrow. He warned about a somewhat high interest rate, but I didn't hesitate. Interest doesn't matter. What matters is getting the money as quickly as possible. So I mortgaged my newly refinanced house, and even my Mercedes-Benz. In the end, the amount to pay was $7 million, but I considered that these people were generous, granting me an amount that I could spend. Then I went to the renowned security company WorldDragon from my previous life. A wealthy individual invested $2 billion in building a large fortress. A business manager approached, offering help. I shared my vision and my desire to build a safe haven against the apocalypse. Although it presented several plans, it did not satisfy me. I declared that the house should be reinforced with aviation materials, bulletproof glass, an air filtration system, and a surveillance system without blind spots. I asked for weapons too. The manager was surprised but agreed. The cost of the final plan was $8 million, and after a deposit, I ordered construction to begin immediately. I then looked for weapons for self-defense, contacting the owner of a hunting club. Meanwhile, the 500 tables intended for the banquet arrived in several shipments, drawing the attention of neighbors. Delivering all the food trucks would cost at least $1 million. I moved all the food into the additional space, ensuring food and drink for the rest of my life. The workers began building the safe house, drawing curious looks from the neighbors, who mocked me. I did not care. In the end, who will laugh last will be seen. I bought some of the supplies from the warehouse for twice the price, transporting them home. My activities caught the attention of Pharma Eugenio, but I didn't pay much attention. Her friend was attentive. She advised, "If something important is happening, the country will let us know." His concern did not deserve a response. The safe house was successfully built, with surveillance systems on each floor. Now, I await the last batch of supplies. Trucks with drinking water began to arrive. Uncle Will, a good person from my previous life, intrigued, asked about the water barrels. I argued the need to stock up on extreme weather conditions, and he believed me. In the 3 days before the extreme cold, I exchanged my money for supplies. I invited colleagues over for tea, and they all passed out after drinking it. I disabled surveillance and moved all merchandise to the additional space. I found cold-resistant technology products, a valuable discovery. I faced the Ice Age calmly thanks to the supplies. I took a sleeping pill as a precaution. I was woken up by my boss, alarmed by the lack of supplies. I feigned surprise and suggested reporting the incident to the higher department for investigation. During the interrogation, nothing was discovered. We were all advised not to leave the city. The incident became news, leaving everyone perplexed. Snow began to fall, a sign of the extreme cold. However, the neighborhood was busy, witnessing snow in the south for the first time. Despite the heating being at maximum, people still suffered from the cold in their homes. Meanwhile, I, equipped with heating equipment, slept peacefully. The intense snowfall lasted 3 months and the temperature continued to drop, causing many people who were not careful about their diet to freeze. On the second day of extreme cold, snow covered half the height of a person at the entrance to the residential area. People's attempts to heat their homes were no match for the persistent snow. However, with my various heating equipment, I enjoyed the comforts of home. Despite the adverse weather outside, I was calm. I was sleeping peacefully when I was woken up by the sound of the phone. It was a call from Fanish, the neighbor who I already loved, but now I couldn't stand her anymore. She excitedly asked me if I was aware of the drop in temperature, and said I had stocked up on supplies without telling her. "I'm freezing here," she complained. I didn't want to hear anything else and hung up on her. She got angry on the other side and cursed me. Then she texted me asking for food. I thought it was absurd. She thought I was her doormat. I responded with a photo of a juicy steak and a glass of wine. She recognized that it was quality meat and expensive wine. She said she also wanted to eat steak and drink wine. I told her that if she wanted, she could go to the market and buy it. She was furious at my response, but then calmed down. She still had hopes of seducing me. I, calm and satisfied, went back to watching TV. It was then that the building's monitor made noise. It was Annalene, the manager, speaking seriously. Don't despair and don't go out to buy groceries. This bad weather will pass in 2 or 3 days. She said the condominium would help everyone, and that she would not tolerate price speculation. If anyone tampered with the supplies, she would report it. But then I come in and say, Annalene, how can you guarantee that this blizzard won't last long? You're stopping everyone from getting ready. You'll be responsible. Upon hearing this, the neighboring villagers also agree. If we don't buy supplies now, you will be responsible if we go hungry. Annalene reaffirmed that the condominium would be responsible for this situation. Then she pointed at me and criticized me. Zan, don't get in the way here. This is an illegal act, but I didn't mind dealing with her. And I retreated to my super-protected house. A week passed in the blink of an eye, but the snow outside continued to fall without stopping. I enjoyed my time at home as always. I received a message on my cell phone from a famous chat group, but I promptly declined the request. It was impossible to clean the streets with so much accumulated snow. Annalene seemed to be trying to create conflict, which made her furious. Then she sent another message, this time on behalf of the neighborhood committee, ordering me to clear the snow. However, I firmly refused, arguing that the task was unfeasible due to the massive amount of snow. It seemed like she was just looking for friction. Annalene delegated the cleaning to Linko on behalf of the committee. He insisted that I should go out and clean up, but I responded calmly, stating that the organization should manage the situation. I quickly mentioned wealthy members of the neighborhood, suggesting that they be consulted on how to deal with snow on a major construction project. Rao, a guy who had broken into my house in the past and stolen my food, intervened in the conversation. Others in the group began to speak up, agreeing with the approach. Aline, realizing that she was losing the argument, became visibly irritated and pointed her finger at me, trying to create conflict. I picked up the phone, recorded a voicemail, and said, "You're just reaching out to me to feel like you still have some relevance." After being scolded, believe it or not, she still wanted to treat me like a sycophant. Just then, a loud noise came from my front door. It was the bald guy outside shouting, "You're pretty arrogant in the group chat, aren't you? Believe it or not, I'm going to kill you." With those words, I picked up my bow and approached the door. It was unclear who would kill whom. I aimed for Shin's shin, seriously wounding him. With the temperature below 100 degrees, he knew the wound would not be saved. The scene left him shaking with fear, and he quickly picked up the phone to call an ambulance. However, the ambulance was unable to arrive due to the weather. Knowing this, he treated the wound as best he could. Unfortunately, the weather was extremely cold, and his foot was almost insensitive to the cold. With grim determination, Shinji withdrew the arrow, picked up the phone again, and issued a threat to the ownership group. "Wait and see how I get revenge." Faced with this threat, I was naturally not afraid and confidently replied, "Keep talking and I will disable your other 2 legs." This scene left viewers in the chat group perplexed. After all, no one expected anyone to face Shinji directly. Soon, he picked up the phone and summoned hundreds of followers. Before long, a swarm of followers, each holding his own weapon, advanced here with pomp. After learning what had happened, the bald leader came to my door with his followers, announcing, "You have offended our brother. Today will be the anniversary of his death." He charged directly towards the door, but in the next second his knife was thrown away, which scared the big ones. How many people did this boy offend? My house was more fortified than a turtle shell. Watching the scene through the security cameras, I laughed. "You're hungry, aren't you? Try again." The group outside became furious and started swearing. Suddenly I had an idea and took a water hose, connecting it to the kitchen tap. "Why are you so angry? Let me calm you down," I said. The big ones outside saw the door lock suddenly open and became alert. However, when they realized it wasn't an arrow, they had a good laugh. Who would have thought that in the next second the hose would spray cold water? Soon, many of them fell to the frozen ground. Only 3 managed to escape. Watching this scene, I was quite satisfied. In this freezing climate, cold water was more lethal than any weapon. On the other side, the 3 boys who escaped gathered together. Annalene looked at them and asked, "What happened? How come you, a whole group, didn't pick up a little boy?" The 3 hurriedly explained. "Zan was very cunning. He turned the front door into a burglar-proof steel door. We fought hard, but we only scratched the paint a little. Then he sprayed us with cold water." Upon hearing this, Shinji's face immediately darkened. No wonder the door seemed a little difficult just now. But don't worry, I don't believe that boy can hide there forever. Send some men to guard his door day and night. When he appears, get rid of him. The uncle, who was leading some people to clear the snow at the entrance of the residential area, planning to dig a path to the supermarket to restock food, was not having much success. After a while, they gave up and prepared to go back. Watching this scene, I sighed. Human power was simply not enough to face a disaster of this scale. Although the television was actively broadcasting to reassure all citizens that the country was launching a final offensive against the snow disaster, I knew that 90% of all bodies worldwide would freeze to death in this snow disaster. My 18-year-old crush was the first to send me a greeting. "Johnny, are you okay?" When I saw the message, I couldn't help but laugh. If she hadn't devoured the most important part of me in my past life, I would still be a pure lotus. So I replied nonchalantly, "I'm fine." She asked me, "Are you hungry? Can I get you some food?" I looked at the phone and smiled mischievously. "Sure, I'm hungry. How about some lobster?" I sent a photo of a lobster to whet his appetite, adding in a dismissive tone, "I'm already full." Seeing this, she got angry and decided to kick me out of her life. At that moment, her best friend texted me, "Why are you being so silly? She's really upset right now." They were very good at acting, one playing the good cop and the other the bad cop. Her best friend didn't give up and continued, "The snow can't last long. Star in for a few meals and seduce the gossipers first. Wouldn't that be a big win?" Regarding that, I ignored her with disdain and responded only with an "Hey." This made her furious. How did this idiot suddenly become so enlightened? We can only sigh as to why my attitude towards him has changed so drastically. At this point, her best friend suggested, "If we lose a sucker, so be it. After all, we still have others." Upon hearing this, she became furious and immediately called other ass-kissers. Soon, a group of them appeared with large and small bags of supplies, claiming that it was all the food they had left. Upon hearing this, she was moved and immediately sent him a good person card. "You are a very good person. Before Sho could express herself, her loyalty rendered her mute. Her best friend quickly closed the door. Before long, 3 days had passed, but the heavy snow continued to fall without stopping. As I looked at the time on my phone, I thought, the real drama is about to begin. In the next moment, the entire neighborhood was plunged into darkness. Soon, neighbors started coming out of their houses asking each other if there was electricity now. With the water and electricity out and the air conditioning not working, it was getting cold enough to kill. After finishing my chicken, I picked my teeth up. So I turned on a generator that I had prepared. Advance. I was lucky to have died early in my past life. Otherwise, I would also be freezing like the rest of them. At this moment, Aunt Linda from the neighborhood committee was shaking as she held her grandson. She never expected the blizzard to last this long. A message reached the group of residents. He said this was a global snowstorm that occurs once every 100,000 years. We were on the brink of a mass extinction event. Several important cities in the country had already been affected. Everyone should stock up on more supplies. After reading the message, Aunt Aline was shocked. She never imagined that the snow disaster would be so serious. It was at that moment that she came up with a plan. She needed to trick everyone into handling her food before they got the news. So, Aunt Aline promptly posted a message in the owners' group. Don't worry, everyone. This disaster is temporary. Workers are currently repairing water and power outages. Authorities have issued an order due to these extraordinary circumstances. The neighborhood committee will carry out the unified management of all property owners. Those who, if they don't make him cooperate, he will be arrested and questioned by the police. Upon seeing the message, Shinji began to curse again, dissatisfied. Although he had a large following, he did not often confront the police. Meanwhile, Aunt Ollie continued in the group chat. Due to the severe impact of the snowstorm on our lives, the neighborhood committee decided to collect supplies from each homeowner and distribute them evenly to help us get through this crisis. When I saw the message, I couldn't help but laugh. It was the same old tactic from my past life. So, Aunt Aline sent a private message. Little Johnny, you usually work in a warehouse, and you must have stocked a lot of food, right? Plus, you bought 3 truckloads of stuff last time. After the crisis, I will certainly report your good deeds to the organization. Upon seeing your message over and over again, if I hadn't died early in my past life, I might have believed your lies. So, I replied while brushing my teeth, Auntie, I'm not lying to you. I really don't have anything to eat at home. How about you take the initiative and send me some packets of instant noodles first? Upon hearing this, Aunt Aline could no longer contain herself and responded angrily, refusing to deliver her groceries. It's the same as when you put the organization. I will definitely report him to the organization for disciplinary action. Won't you go to heaven? It's okay for you to show your importance normally, but now that things are like this, do you still think you're so important? Someone who said this made her so curious that she broke her old cell phone. This kid dares to talk to me like that. After all, I am a community leader. After failing to gain any advantage, my Aunt Aline turned her attention to other owners, thinking, well, it doesn't matter who I can fool, as long as I can fool some. 2 days passed quickly. Under Aunt Aline's persuasion, surprisingly, several owners sent their supplies to her house. When I saw this scene, I saw deep in my heart that everyone believed in some great Samaritan in this apocalyptic world. Now the entire world has plunged into chaos. They could only wait to die. Soon, many owners started tagging Aunt Aline in the chat group. It was not said that the supplies would be distributed equally. We don't have food at home. start handing some out to us. But Aunt Aline ignored most of the messages. Bunch of idiots. These supplies were obtained through my work. How can I hand them over so easily? At that moment, her phone rang, and when she saw it was Shinji, she broke out in a cold sweat. What did he want with her? On the other end of the phone, Shinji heard Aunt Aline and said coldly, Aunt Aline, you have a lot of skill. You really cheated on all the supplies for your house. Upon hearing this, Aunt Aline feigned innocence, saying that it was the community committee's decision and that she was just doing her duty. Shinji replied, Perfect. More than 10 of us are here waiting for you to distribute the supplies. Upon hearing this, Aunt Aline lightly cleaned herself. These supplies have not yet been separated. Some owners have not yet delivered their supplies. We cannot begin distributing them yet. In the next second, the area tyrant, along with his henchmen, broke into her house. Aunt Aline turned pale. Shinji laughed coldly and asked, And you think you acted within the law by stealing everyone's supplies? Meanwhile, I watched the scene under surveillance, happily eating a sausage. The fight was about to begin. Finally, at this point, I had a brilliant idea. Share the surveillance video within the ownership group. Surely everyone's reaction would be very funny. On the other side, Shinji and his gang had already invaded Aunt Aline's house, instructing his subordinates to take all the food, leaving nothing behind. Upon hearing this, Aunt Aline quickly grabbed Shinji's leg. You guys can't take everything. Some of the supplies here are what I have personally stored. Without these supplies, my grandson and I won't survive. Shinji let out a cold laugh. That's none of my business. Get out of here with it. He directly kicked Aunt Aline, making her fall. Her grandson was shocked by the scene and took a small knife to avenge his grandmother. He managed to accurately skewer one of the henchmen, a guy with yellow hair. The intense pain caused the henchman to forget to move things, and he kicked the boy in response. The other henchman laughed. Since when did Yellow Hair learn to kick? He really managed to kick this little boy. Despite the intense pain in her buttocks, the Yellow Hair joined in the fun. How cool am I, right? Someone should have recorded this moment. Aunt Aline fell in front of her grandson. My dear grandson! But Xiao, watching the scene, showed no sympathy. That's what you deserve for tricking us. Your neighbors are just getting justice. On the other side, many owners, watching the scene, also applauded and applauded. Ha ha! Serves the right liar. Such outrageous methods are necessary to deal with partners like her. When I saw these messages, I laughed. You really don't understand the heart of the problem. Today, Shinji might break into Aunt Aline's house. Tomorrow, he could break into yours. But all this has nothing to do with me. My 2-meter fixed steel door doesn't have it. I wouldn't give up even if he came with a tank. Soon, Aunt Aline was asking the group of residents for help. Does anyone have hemostatic medication, anti-shock medications, antibiotics? My grandson was injured by Shinji, and the doctor said he urgently needs these medicines for surgery. When I read this, my eyes lit up. Dr. Choa was a savior figure in his previous life. Fortunately, we had Dr. Choa on hand to save Aunt Aline's grandson's life. But by this time, Aunt Aline was making a constant appeal to the group of owners for medicine, promising gratitude to anyone willing to provide it. However, this only resulted in criticism from many owners. Some accused her of trying to take advantage after robbing us of our supplies. Others criticized her for having the audacity to ask for help after everything she had done. By this time, the blizzard had been going on for over a week, and the outside was practically paralyzed. Even if the boy was saved, how long could everyone go without food? At this point, the snow outside the community had almost buried up to the first floor. Many people heard news that it was a global snowstorm that occurs once every 100,000 years. No one knew what Neve's disaster would turn into. Soon, a week passed quickly, and the entire world was almost buried by the snowstorm. In some cities in the north, the temperature dropped to -100 degrees Celsius. Many residents who tried to evacuate to their homes ended up freezing to death on the way. In the group of owners, Aunt Aline once again appealed to morality. "My dear grandson has been hungry for 2 days. He's just a child. Are you really going to stand there and watch him die?" She stated that she was willing to pay a high price for the supplies. Upon seeing this, owners began to inflate prices. The last package of instant noodles was sold for dollars. Seeing this, I laughed. These people are not taking the apocalypse seriously. Soon they will think that paper money is so useless that it cannot even be used as toilet paper. As a second-generation rich kid with some business acumen, I started stockpiling supplies at high prices. It was clear that money in this apocalyptic world would become as useless as waste paper, so I had to get rid of it while it was still useful. At this point, a single mother in the group asked for help, saying that she and her daughter were about to starve to death and that she hoped everyone could help her. When I read this, I laughed again. In the past life, this woman and her daughter managed to survive for a long time. This saddle is not as simple as it seems. 10 days passed quickly. As always, I was enjoying my time at home. At this moment, the phone on the table rang, revealing the caller ID. With a cold laugh, Aunt Aline finally couldn't take it anymore and opened the video chat. "You guys look thinner after not seeing each other for so long." Behind me, the sight of the food made both people drool. "Why do you still have so much food at home, Johnny?" I scoffed. "Is it because you played last time? And with this temperature of -100 degrees, why are you sweating?" I smiled. "So I installed a fireplace in the house. It's really hot. I'm thinking about running outside." Upon hearing this, Vanish immediately tried to please me. "Brother Zangi, you are so incredible, so well prepared. Could you let Vanish come in and take a shower there?" I scoffed. They still think I'm an ancient relic. Without thinking twice, I rejected the invitation. I even teased Vanish with the -100-degree temperature. "Remember to stay warm." Vanish was instantly furious at my words. "Zangi, don't go too far. We're freezing and starving. It's okay if you don't want to help, but don't make sarcastic comments." Upon hearing this, I laughed. "Do you still think I'm an easy target? If you want food, go to your rich boy. Besides, we're not really related. Why should I help you with this?" I gracefully ended the video call. On the other side, Vanish was already furious. She never imagined that I would go down the path of being a kiss-ass and hire her. At that moment, her best friend joined her with wise words. "Zangi is very good. It was you who missed the opportunity. Otherwise, we could have been enjoying things at his house. Now he is much stronger than this so-called rich boy. If I had known you would do this, I would have gone myself. Now everything has been revealed, and we are left with nothing." I was already furious. "Are you still defending Johnny? I'm going to kill you." The two were fighting on the bed. Meanwhile, the government, seeing that it could no longer hide the news of the Neve disaster, issued a television advertisement to meet everyone's electricity needs. Power supply would be from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. every day, but the voltage would only be sufficient for low-consumption appliances. Currently, all major power plants were offline and power was scarce. Everyone was encouraged to use electricity sparingly to avoid large-scale power cuts. Soon, the ownership group became agitated again. "Did you see the news? Apparently the online rumors are true," someone said. But while everyone was tense, suddenly someone offered to sell instant noodles for 5,000 per pack. Some showed interest. Seeing this, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Knowing that we were in an apocalypse, and still wanting to exchange life-saving supplies for this worthless paper in the current circumstances. A full stomach was the priority when everyone was hungry, and who would care about this useless paper? On the other side, after a 2-minute fight, she and her friend finally calmed down. The soft approach didn't work. "We're going to be tough on this," he said. She picked up the phone and contacted her number 1's kisser, telling him an absurd story about how she wanted her purity just because she had food. Shou Ping was immediately furious upon hearing this. This Chan is a scoundrel, he thought. If I don't take this guy down, I'm going to disappoint my ass-kissing identity. Seeing that Choco was convinced, Funga quickly approached. "Little Ogun, let's find a way to take his house, and then we can live together, okay?" Shou Ping agreed without hesitation. But before that, they needed to prepare some weapons. Before long, the three of them, each with a hidden kitchen knife, arrived at my door. Hiding the knife behind their backs, they knocked on the door. "My brothers, are you there? It's me, old Joe. As a coworker, could you lend me some food? I'll exchange it for fever medicine," they said. Unbeknownst to them, I had already seen the entire scene clearly through the surveillance camera. Seeing the weapons in their hands, I was about to explode with rage. "Do you really think you can kill me? If the tiger does not show its power, you will mistake it for a sick cat." I then connected a hose to the tap and decided to offer them a cold shower at -100 degrees. At that moment, the accumulated pile of trash caught my attention and an idea popped into my mind. I grabbed the hose and approached the door, shouting, "Don't worry, I'll make sure everyone has enough food." The three of them, thinking I was about to open the door, raised their weapons excitedly. But in the next second, a pile of feces was smeared on them through the small window in the door. Funga Yoshi immediately realized that it was a pile of feces and started vomiting while furious. "Do you have the courage today? Get out! I'm going to kill you with this," I said, laughing. "Don't say I didn't give you a chance. If you dare, come." Upon hearing this, Shou Ping, seething with rage, lost his machete and attacked my front door, only to find that the door was intact. Instead, his hand was injured from the impact. Watching this scene, I couldn't help but laugh. My 2-meter security door is not something you can break just by saying that. I really don't know what you're thinking. I stocked as much as a Walmart warehouse in my house. I'm not worried about them watching outside. Even if I never leave, in the next life, what can they do to me? Suddenly I was woken up by a gunshot. Although I knew that the evil of human nature would be exposed in the apocalyptic world, the sudden gunshot still scared me greatly. In fact, there was someone armed in this community. I quickly grabbed my tablet and started checking the surveillance camera footage. It turns out that Chinjio and his men went from house to house stealing. After the water supply was cut off, most residents went out to dig snow for water during this time. Shinshin was taking advantage of this moment to loot supplies. When the supplies ran out, even if they used the accumulated snow as food, it wouldn't last long. After stealing the supplies, Shinshin did not forget to assert his authority in the owner's group chat, declaring that he was in charge of the building and that anyone who tried to challenge him would suffer the consequences. Seeing this, I couldn't help but comment that Shinjin's cruel tactics were undoubtedly the reason why he was so successful in society before the apocalypse. However, their ammunition and followers were limited and, in the end, they were unable to face all the residents of the building. And now Shinjin and the others have managed to do what they wanted. Well, we'll find out in part 2, so if you like the manhwa, leave a like and subscribe to the channel to find out when the next part of this story comes out. Thank you and see you guys.